have you been? My name's Chris Stallings. I'm a wealth advisor here at Abundance, and we wanted to take some time to kind of demystify some of the questions that we've seen come from clients and prospective clients for many years. As of now, I'm approaching a quarter century in this industry, and for many years we've tracked the questions that we get, and we've also done a lot of post-meeting type interviews with clients, some that became clients and some that didn't for different reasons. And so what we wanted to bring to you is what we have found to be like the deeper truth, if we could say it that way. And so today it's about, do I have enough money to retire? And that is frequently what I get. Whether somebody comes in with $1 million or a multiple 8-figure net worth in the tens of millions or even higher, I hear that question frequently. Do I have enough money to retire? But the truth is that's not the best question. And so I think it's important to consider the amount of assets that you have, but really the best question is, do you have enough cash flow sufficient to support your lifestyle? Especially when we've got seasons of inflation and the cost of living's going up. How shock-proof is your retirement plan? And so as a firm, that's how we tend to treat your assets differently than most of our competition. So I experience that our competition will have a well-allocated, optimized, efficient portfolio that's low cost, which that's great 95% of the time. But when a downturn happens, they don't tend to take the steps necessary to either stave off potential losses or to have you, like Wayne Gretzky being so successful in hockey, he was where the puck was going to be so that he could score. And so to be positioned ahead of time is the task that we take on as a firm, so that when there is what you would call asset rotation, we're already where the next wave of growth will be. And so, full disclosure, we're not perfect in doing that. No one is, but at least we're trying. And we're not going to shame you when you ask us to reduce risk and basically put it back on you to tell us what to do, because we don't know what we're doing. And so I've literally heard other wealth advisors say that, well, if you want me to do this, then you need to tell me when to buy back in. It's like, well, wait a minute, who's doing this? Who's the professional here? So with the concept of having your assets properly allocated for cash flow, that being really the better question, do I have enough money to retire? The depth of that is that we have met with individuals who have beautiful estates. They live on acreage and they have a multi-million-dollar home. They have a multi-million-dollar mountain retreat or lake house. You know, these lakes that used to have cabins on them that now have more castles. So if you've got several million wrapped up in personal real estate, and if you don't have enough outside of that generates cash flow, then it's not about, do I have enough assets to retire anymore, is it? So instead, what we do is we help individuals see how that money can be properly allocated, still valuing their values of their home and a vacation location, be that in the mountains or the lake. And then we look at how inflation-proof, how shock-proof is that cash flow. And so what we study are very, very affluent individuals, and they tend to have a few things in common. Many of them own real estate privately, different forms of real estate. They also own businesses, and they're typically silent partners. So all of this income for them is unearned income. And that's a key departure from what typical wealth advisors discuss. And so here's what happens if you don't. You could be a statistic like Johnny Depp, who several years ago, if you recall, had a headline of losing $650 million because of his highly compensated professional advisors and lawyers and all these teams of management professionals. They did not have his assets set up for cash flow. They were mostly depreciating assets. And it looks great. You know, if we were on The Life of the Rich and Famous, then it would show very well, right? But he had yachts and he had an island. Those things don't generate cash flow unless you're going to Airbnb an island, right? So And then his monthly upkeep, unless he was working, which I'm thinking of you in retirement, was about $2 million. So he could have several $100 million in assets, but if his maintenance cost, his carry cost was a couple million a month, and he didn't have the assets properly allocated to generate the cash flow to support that, now he's a very, very rich man who has to work to keep his lifestyle alive. And that's not something that you want to take into retirement. It's just not. So we go in and we evaluate the cash flow. We look at how it needs to be optimized. And while I may not be a proponent at the time of this recording of jumping headlong into real estate, there is a reason that the wealthy own as much as they do. So if you have found that this economy since 2020 has been kind of a mixed bag for you, and your advisor is one who says we should just ride it out, it'll all turn out fine in the long run, kind of like the Wizard of Oz pulling the curtain back just to find out that it's a little man pushing buttons, the real reason, especially for the last 2 decades, that the stock market and the economy at large has done so well is because we have gone headlong deeper into debt, which means inflation will continue to be a problem in ebbs and flows in the future. But also, it means that you're depending on the Federal Reserve to bail you out. And they are not your friend. They do have to keep the economy going, but they do a much better job of taking care of their friends who work at very large firms and who have multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar net worths. So I would invite you to consider giving us a call. The whole goal is to just see if we're a good fit. And maybe the way we have run our company for decades is a way that's life-giving to you. Maybe the way our staff cares for you and you're not just another account, or you're being dictated and mandated to, which is how a lot of advisors just tell their clients what they need to do. There's a point where I can do that, but I don't want to be dictatorial, and I don't want to be an expensive babysitter, which is what most advisors are. They get paid very, very well to add minimal value. And so I would just say that if you're uncomfortable, go with your gut. That instinct has got you to where you are, and if you're uncomfortable where you are, maybe, just maybe, we're the kind of place that can give you the opportunity to feel some peace at night. And so I would also invite you that if you are an affluent individual who is either right before or in retirement, and you've built up millions of dollars of an estate, that this is not the time to go with what is average. You worked too hard, and if you're like me, you're probably 20 years my senior. I'm a man who's in his mid-40s, and you've worked this hard to get where you are. An average solution, or what people typically do, is maybe not the best consideration for the future of your legacy. And so with that, if you're thinking of this needing to last you for decades, if you're thinking that among the affluent of value is to leave an inheritance for their children and their children's children, do you have the products necessary, the vehicles necessary, the allocation before you that will ensure that many decades, even after you're gone, there is a source of wealth that provides richly for the generations to come? So these are the kind of things that we talk about. These are the kind of things we think about, preparation for the inevitable hard conversations. But I commit to, as heavy as it is, for us to make it light. I jokingly say that I use I use levity to deal with gravity. And so we have heavy hitting conversations, but the mood and the sense is that it's possible. And with the right vision, what would normally feel like a roadblock actually feels like a speed bump that you just go right over. So give us a call, reach out. We'll be glad to help any way we can.